Anyways, we didn't come here to talk about this. We didn't come here to talk about this. We've worked out the technical difficulties. Let's roll it in. Number 1, 2, 3. There we go.
That's nice.
That's a nice one. Nice one. Anyways, welcome back to another episode of This Korean Life. Number 123, featuring Ali. Welcome, my friend. This is highly recommended from Mr. Andy Bonington. He told us about you months ago when he was in here. And
For the listener, I'm blushing.
Yeah. He's we thought he was the musical man, but we got number 2 over here, or maybe number 1. Who knows? Anyways, you guys are in. You guys are in a band together called the Bandits.
Yes,
that is.
Bandits.
Not the Bandits.
No,
sorry.
No, I mean it's fine. But yeah, not of the band.
Sorry. I mean, let's jump right into that. You have you have rules for naming a band.
I don't. It's a thing that's come about.
Okay.
So yeah, I've played in so many bands in Korea.
Yeah.
But most of the bands that I've started have a single plural noun name. So the first one was Colours, then Mountains, then Visuals, Machines, Ghosts, Emperors, which I did with Toby.
Yeah.
Stops 0 0 drummer, and then Bandits with Andy here as well. Honestly, it started as the first band just being we'll call ourselves Colours, and every song will just be a colour name, red, blue, green, whatever. We were an instrumental band, so lyrics didn't really matter, and it was just an easy way to kind of name stuff. And then since then, it's just kind of continued, not as a strict rule necessarily, but just a way of setting and forgetting a band name. Like, it's not anything too crazy, but it's not anything that's going to be offensive or hard to pronounce. Are you guys familiar with the grandma rule of band naming?
No.
So the grandma rule is can you tell your grandma, stereotypical quote-unquote grandma, your band name and not feel a little bit embarrassed about that? Like Josh Home going to his grandma and say, "Hi, I'm Queens of the Stone Age." That's a cool band name.
Yeah.
The grandma's going, "Queens of the what?"
Yeah.
I don't really understand. But if I just go to my grandma and say, "I'm in Bandits," she wouldn't understand because I'd be speaking in English. But, she wouldn't be offended by that, or she wouldn't think that's weird,
Sure.
It's just a simple band naming rule. And like I say, there isn't really much past that.
Is that would you let your parents look at your search history?
That'd be a tough one. I think they would be utterly bored very quickly.
Let's keep that just a band name.
Hey, who do we have in here?
It's a job for general browsing. Private browsing.
Yeah. All right, Mom, we can check this out. No incognito mode. What? Who do we have in here who was talking about the heavy metal band names that he played with? Oh, it was hilarious. And one of the bands was called Christ Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. Heavy metal. The one I always think of is Agoraphobic, Nosebleed, Cannibal Corpse. These really big metal bands.
Cannibal Corpse.
And they have these kind of very visceral band names.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny because the members in the band are sometimes very posh white men. And between songs, yes, hello everyone, very, very nice, thank you for coming. We are Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and this is also Human Brain Salad. And they kind of kick in.
But if you were called Pecans or something and you went and watched Slipknot, you'd be like, what the hell kind of pecans are these?
Exactly.
It'd be a little misleading, maybe.
I think Japan is great for band names.
Oh, yeah.
There is a very popular band in Japan at the moment, and they've actually come to Korea a few times. They're called Creepy Nuts.
Creepy Nuts?
Creepy Nuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so if you go to Japan, at the Family Mart, there'll be an advert on the till, "Hey, catch the Creepy Nuts Japan tour." That's really strange. But,
that's bad.
The old British radio guy, John Peel,
yeah.
is a hero of underground music. And he was asked about the worst band names, because he would just get demos sent from all over the world. And he said that Japan was the worst because there was 2 examples that he gave. One was called Kick the Pregnant. It was a punk band from Japan, apparently. And there's another band called Bathtub Shitter. I apologise for all of those of sensitive ears that are listening to the early part of this. But that's the thing. It's you name a band and you don't want people to go, oh, why did you call yourselves that?
They should.
No one has ever gone to me like, oh, did you have to call yourself Ghost?
Ghost.
Like, it's such a nothing.
They should apply that filter to making those T-shirts as well.
Yeah.
You see some of those shirts, Korea, Japan, China, and go, or Thailand maybe. What?
They might be band shirts.
Hell was so much.
Honestly, when I was a kid in the UK, I bought a T-shirt that, you know, the Care Bears?
Yeah.
I bought one that had a teddy bear with a gun against its head, and it was couldn't care bear. And my dad took one look at that. I think I was like, 16 at the time, getting into the edgier parts of the world. And he just kind of, Ali, just be careful, right? Yeah, that's kind of funny, but
I bought one.
A bit disappointed in you there.
I bought a shirt with the Smurfs, and it was Dopey, and it was just a Smurf smoking weed. I didn't even smoke weed at the time yet.
My dad got us Sex Wax T-shirts.
Sex wax?
It was a brand of wax that I think it was originally for surfboards, skateboards, maybe snowboards.
Your dad found a new use for it?
No, but they started making it for hockey sticks.
Oh, okay.
And Sex Wax keeps your stick. They had all
greasy,
and you would tape your stick and then put the wax. I mean, everybody still does it. You can use candles, whatever you want. But Sex Wax was the branding. If it was on social media, it would have sold 7 billion shirts, man, because they were hilarious. And the other one was, did you ever see Big Johnson shirts?
Oh, no.
Always packing a Big Johnson. We got sent home from school for wearing them. But Dad thought they were just so funny, and we all the boys got one, and they had all kinds of different situations, whether it's golfing or fishing or whatever. Yeah. Always packing my Big Johnson, and I mean,
nice.
We used to get sent home for wearing those. So
wonderful. Is the band name's not important?
Not really, no. Bandits came from at UNIST. I saw this poster for a conference on contextual bandits, and initially that was going to be the name. But we're in Korea, and I'm having to contact promoters and speak to people for whom English is not the first language. So a word like contextual is quite a difficult word to say and spell and write on a poster. Sure. So we just cut that off and just kept it as Bandits.
So this is band number 17 for you.
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Very
17.
Interesting. How are you Are you trying to do one a year? How does it?
Sometimes 2 a year, to be honest.
How does a band start? Are you actively looking for new bands? Is it just a natural thing? You meet someone and
yeah.
How do we start?
Initially it was definitely like I wanted to find musicians. And I think, like we were chatting earlier, my first year was in Ulsan, and I'm now friends with Patrick and Andy and Toby, all these people who were here in Ulsan at that time. And I think our paths just did not cross, because my first year in Korea, I was like, there's no music scene here whatsoever. What's going on? It's like a dead space.
What year was it?
2011, so beginning of that, 2012, I was in Ulsan. Yeah. And I couldn't find. I'd go to some of the open mics, and the music that I play, it's not really open mic fare, so I wasn't having much luck finding people there. But after my first year in Ulsan, I moved to Daegu, and Daegu has a decent music scene, and there was a few more foreigners there, from the teachers and all this kind of stuff. So I started meeting people there. I started going to shows and seeing bands and seeing musicians and meeting people. And pretty much each band has led to the next one, because I'll go play a show, I'll meet some people, and then if that band finishes, I'll go like, hey, do you guys want to try and do something together? Yeah. Inevitably, the reason why it's so many is that inevitably people leave or join military service. So it's very common that like you'll start a band and then you'll have about a year and a half, and then the classic thing in Korea is, please come to our album launch / last ever show. Yeah. Because by the time you get to the stage of writing, recording the album and putting it out, somebody in the band is leaving. Yeah. So that happens a lot. Or, when I've been in bands with Korean people, they'll join the military service, or even just they'll get married and have kids. Yeah. And for not all Koreans, but some Koreans that I've played in bands with, that's kind of the end of their musical life. Yeah. I'm going to sell my guitar, I'm a family man now. I'm going to have kids, and that's what I am. So, yeah. Not all of them, but yeah.
It doesn't work like that with the drinking, right?
No.
I'm a family man now. I'm going to stop soju.
Put down the guitar.
In the punk scene up in Seoul, a friend of mine was a big drinker, big part of the scene. He played in some amazing bands. As soon as he got married and had his first kid, that was it. Yeah, we barely see him.
Huh.
I've seen him once in the last 5 years.
On the members there in Meaton, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't find anyone around in 2012. I always try and think there's something for everybody. You just got to go out and find it.
Sure.
Now that you've been around a while and in a few bands, have you? I'm curious. What is the ratio of maybe like teachers or people in the education field, as opposed to not? Because I find a lot of people kind of stick in their lane, and if you do that, you're probably not going to run into too many people who do what you do because you're.
Well, I mean, that's kind of so why so many bands is kind of because it can be kind of boring just to stay at home and spend your evenings watching TV or whatever it is people do. So it's getting out there and playing music. The people that I play with tend to be other English teachers. Again, unless it's a Korean band,
right.
Probably something else. But then when I'm playing the shows, I'm meeting people that I wouldn't,
right.
meet otherwise.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
like totally new people. And so in Daegu, there was a couple of bands there, and some of the members didn't speak English that well, and at the time I was pretty new to learning Korean. But we had this shared thing of music, right? And so we'd go out, we'd play the show, and then we'd go, drink together. We'd get drunk. I'd practice what little Korean I'd learned. They'd practice what little English they'd learned.
Sure.
And I got to meet people that I absolutely would not have met
Right.
otherwise. So it's a phenomenal way to kind of meet people in Korea that you wouldn't, like you say, you wouldn't meet if all you did is work.
That's what this is.
Because I was just thinking back to 2012, even if there was no one that we would particularly run into, the Filipinos, there's always 2, 3, 4 good Filipino bands. But those paths don't intersect.
Well,
Teachers don't go to the Filipino restaurant or bar where they play, but when you see them at the festivals, you're like, holy shit, who are these guys? These guys are good. And often it's in English that they sing, and they sing a lot of covers.
Well, I think that's the other thing. So, like, I've never played. I was going to say I've never played in a covers band.
Right.
I met Andy in a covers band because I was playing guitar and I knew Tony, and I just said, hey, I want to improve playing guitar. Can I come and join you guys? And he said, yeah, just learn some covers. Anyway, so the Filipino bands is generally covers that they do, right? And they play in they might play in a restaurant or whatever. Occasionally I have met people who are, let's say, non-English speakers who have started a pop punk band or something like that, and then they will come into quote unquote my area of music or the more indie scene kind of thing.
Right.
But if you're just a band playing covers in a bar, the paths aren't going to really cross.
Because I was going to say the Compound, right? I mean, we bought that drum set off the guys. I mean, there's always been, when they had the Foreigner Community Center, what was it called? Foreigner what? Clubhouse. I mean, they had 2 or 3 great foreigner bands out there, and UNIST, the students always had 1 or 2 bands at UNIST, but that's why I say to people when they come, you got to get out. When we came, I mean, there wasn't even enough foreigners to say, you run across the street to say hello to somebody. But
when
now,
did you guys arrive?
We came 2004.
2007.
Okay,
But now, you bring in cohorts of teachers, and that's kind of your set group for the next. But if you don't branch out, there's not a teacher there wasn't many teachers that played ice hockey. It was mostly engineers. You had to find Canadians if you wanted them, and even lots of them don't play hockey.
One of the big tips that somebody gave me when I was first here was just keep doing what you love, right? Yeah. And you will eventually meet your people. Yeah. So my first year in Ulsan, my moment that really snapped it for me was I would go to Daegu to meet a friend that I'd met in the orientation, and we'd go out drinking. The first night we went out drinking in Daegu, there's this massive jungle of bars and clubs and all this kind of, and we're just walking through, chatting and going, oh, where can we go to drink? Like, don't want to go to the clubs. These bars look horrible, loud music, whatever. And then we just as we're about to give up hope, we just saw this bar called Organ Bar, and the poster was like a Sonic Youth album cover. That would anyway. We were like, let's just go in and we'll have a drink. If it's good, we'll stay. If not, we'll go. And we went in and they're playing Radiohead and My Bloody Valentine, all this great music. Like, yeah, okay, this is a good place. And we sat at the bar chatting to the barmaid, who's still a friend of mine, about film and just random stuff. And just before we left, she said, there's a gig happening in a few weeks. They used a picture of me dancing for the poster.
Beautiful.
Like, why don't you, like, just, if you want to see some music, check it out. And I'm really drunk. I took a photo of it, went home. A few days later, I saw it on my thing and just, all right, let me just find these bands. And I copied and pasted the first band into Google. And there's this band called Lhasa, two-piece from Busan, an American dude and a Canadian dude, I think. And they did beautiful, phenomenal music. Still to this day, one of the best bands I've ever seen in Korea. It was like atmospheric and all of these layers to their music and dancey and electronic, even though they were, playing guitar and drums. It was really, really fun. And then they said, like, so I'd follow them around the country. Daegu, Busan, they were always playing these places, and I just got to meet more and more people that I liked and music that I really liked. And then one day they were like, hey, Ali, we're going to go and play this huge festival in Seoul called 51 Plus, which was basically a protest festival against the government destroying this area of Hongdae and not giving enough compensation to this one noodle restaurant in particular. So all these musicians got together and said, we're going to put on a festival to raise awareness and raise money for you guys. And Lhasa had been invited to this festival. And it was 51 because it was 51 bands.
Nice.
51 plus bands. And so I spent the day just walking around. Again, my Korean wasn't great at that point, but just like checking out all these different bands. Punk in the basement, post-rock on the top floor,
nice.
A folk stage over here, indie stage over here. Yeah, it was phenomenal. And the people that I met that day are still friends of mine. And the noodle restaurant was not saved, it got railed, absolutely destroyed. But the owners were able to relocate somewhere else, and they're still going. They're doing really, really well.
Very cool.
But yeah, keep doing what you love. You'll eventually find your people.
And go out on those nights where you don't have a plan, you just wander and
exactly.
Stumble in here, there. Those are the best nights.
It was such a random.
They're so much better than the let's go here, and then we'll be. No, you just go and see what happens. Yeah. I like those.
When you're meeting a new band or new people to form a band, is there some compromise on musical style? Like, you have your own unique guitar playing. If you meet someone else who's maybe into softer stuff, like, do you agree before, like, what kind of music you want to play, or is it like let's do both, or is it like is it a mishmash?
I'll say that all of my bands. Pretty much every band has been a different genre.
Okay.
Like I've played very soft post-rock stuff, which is like very quiet and understated, all the way to hardcore punk and very short, fast, visceral, loud music, and I enjoy all of it. So in terms of meeting new people, usually there'll be some shared touchstones. There'll be something that we like in common, and then it's kind of a case of like. Initially, you'll have a few ideas and you'll take that to the studio and you're like, oh, let's work on this. Studio, I mean practice room.
Yeah.
And by practice room, I mean basement, dirt hole with some amps in the corner. So yeah, you go in and you kind of work on that riff. And then usually by like second or third song that you've written, you've figured out some style, a voice, quote unquote. And then you take it from there. And there can be compromise if the drummer maybe can't play fast technical drum beats, then all right, let's keep it straight and simple. If the guitarist is doing all this twiddly stuff, you kind of go like, okay, let's maybe simplify a little bit and let's see what we can do with that. Yeah, it's always a mix of stuff. Most of the musicians I play with, sorry to interrupt, but they're kind of into a wide range of music. So
is that part of being here? It's like a prerequisite. Don't go out looking if you only want one style, or maybe wait and let it come to you because you can't go around telling people.
It can be. I mean, like right now, I'm always looking for new bands and wanting to start new bands. And I can't just say, I want to do this style of music, because there just is not enough musicians to do that here.
Because that's kind of like Jason Kim, right? He likes his hardcore stuff and that's it.
Yeah.
He likes heavy metal and that's all they do. And if you don't...
And covers. And he has a gig coming up. I think we should go
Is
check
he
it out.
in, I don't know him, but is he in Push Fix?
I think
is he in that band?
No, he's in Big Sally, and he used to play with
Okay.
Not even you.
Nicky Biscuits. I
Nicky
don't know.
Biscuits, yeah. he's in China now. Yeah, Nicky Biscuits.
5 gets you 10, he
But
is a
somebody else played with them before him.
street rascal.
So I was going to ask, you say 17 bands, but surely they can't all be successes. There must have been a few that fell apart before it was called a band.
Define success. What is success?
How many attempts were there to create bands that fell apart? I mean, I just think if it... For any hobbies or whatever I have, maybe you just don't click, you don't connect. When do you find that out? Hey, Nate, you like this? Okay, yeah,
sure.
good. Do you say, let's meet and try and play something one day? And then, nah, listen, this is oil and water. Or you just make it work? Or like you said before, on the compromise. There must have been times when it didn't work out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In fact, just this summer, we had that experience. There's a phenomenal band in Busan called Daisy Gun, indie band, and me and those guys were good friends. We had a lot of shared music taste, and I was kind of eager to do something with them, like a couple of members of that band, myself, and another friend of mine were like, let's get, let's try and do something. And yeah, we just never find the time to kind of practice together and have everyone in the room at the same time. And after a summer of trying and stops and starts, we just said, like, let's call it a day on this, because obviously it's not going to work, it's not going to progress.
Does each band you form, do they all have goals or like outcomes that, like you mentioned going into the studio, do all of them go into the studio? Is it
I think maybe I've had one or two that have never recorded anything, but most of them have. At this point, I have about 24 hours worth of, like you could listen a whole 24 hours of bands that I've been in just in Korea.
Awesome.
But yeah, some bands don't make it. In terms of goal and like success and these kind of things, I never really think about them, because the goal for me is to write some songs and go and play some shows.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then if the music's good enough, or if I'm enjoying it, not if the music's good enough, but if I'm enjoying it, I want to record something as a touch, as for posterity. Like I want something that I can keep and listen back to. So over COVID, me and Toby, we were playing together every weekend. We'd get into the studio, we'd mess around. At one point we had like 16, 17 songs, but we didn't have a singer, and we couldn't find one. So eventually we were just like, let's take 3 or 4 songs. I'll ask my friend to just guest vocal on top of it. We'll record something. We'll just put it on Bandcamp, and that's that. Like, we never played live. We never did anything with that, apart from just recording those songs and putting them out. And that was fine. Like that was
so the process of recording and creating and getting someone to mix it or whatever, produce it, that's just the cost of that is just that's the hobby. That's the cost of the hobby, like buying the equipment or a hockey stick.
I mean, some people like, you have hobbies of I don't know, like stamp collecting or trains or figures or everyone has something that brings them joy and they spend money on doing that. I think there are musicians in Korea that see music as a profession, and the aim is to make money from it in some way, or to kind of be able to go and play a big festival or do all these kind of things. And yeah, I've never really.
But would you say for the most part, more of them are interested in record? I would guess that most aren't into recording and they just play for fun. But would you say there's a lot that don't want to record?
I think most bands want to record. You make something.
Yeah, I have.
You want
That's
to
why
keep
I'm curious. That's
for
cool.
Posterity. I mean, there are bands who are straight up bar bands, right? Like covers bands.
Yeah.
Covers band aren't going to record, right? They're just going to play and get paid for playing. Which is absolutely fine. But for most, like, original bands, quote unquote, you're making your own music. I think the goal is definitely to write a bunch of songs, choose a few good ones, record it, send that out to venues in other towns, maybe go and play in Seoul, maybe go play in Busan or Daegu or wherever there is a place to play.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that goes well and you're invited back, and it kind of grows from that. I mean, there is definitely a ceiling in Korea, especially if you're an expat band.
Yeah.
We're not going to be invited
if
to
you
play
could choose between
the biggest festivals, but
the 17 bands, which sounds like a wild experience, or 3 or 4 bands that were together for 3 or 4 years each, and you got to play together so many different places, what would you choose?
That's a good question. I do have a few bands that have lasted a fair while. The band Mountains was the second band I started in Korea, and that's technically still going, even though our drummer lives in Mexico now. But we released an album last year. The singer still lives here. He actually lives in Bukgu in Ulsan, not far, and we still write together. We have been a band for 8 years now, maybe.
Nice.
We've toured Japan a few times, Taiwan. Been all over the country.
Playing music,
yeah. And it's been great. I mean, COVID and our drummer moving to Mexico kind of put a little pause on that, or stopped that a little bit. But yeah, so I've had that of a band lasting for a long time and being able to do stuff. I would always prefer, I think every band that I've played in, not necessarily the music, but the people who are in it are good friends. And I love them, and I wish they never had to leave. But for a lot of people, real life calls, and they want to go home. So,
but in that case, 17 bands would be the choice. I mean, if you had to,
if I had to choose,
I think variety's a spice of life, right? I mean,
and like I said, every band has been a different style. So, like, if I had to play one genre of music and the same songs for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I mean, surely the Foo Fighters must be sick of playing everyone by now. God damn it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's really fun to be able to play new music all the time. The flip side is that I'm always starting again, right? Like it's always a new thing of like, hey, come and see this band. It's not the same as the last band that you saw, so you might not enjoy it as much. You know, my first band being Instrumental. We went and played all of these great venues with all these great Korean acts, and we'd never played with foreign acts in that first band. Mostly because I think we were a little bit weird. It was all this like very technical music, and the Korean audience loved it. And I think there was no vocal barrier to it. There was no musician.
Yeah.
And then the next band I started was Mountains, and we had a vocalist, sang in English mostly. We had a few Korean songs, but yeah, mostly in English. And we lost most of the Korean audience and then gained more of a foreign audience with that band. Like we started playing more with expat bands or whatever you want to call them. Yeah.
Just a quick one on the Mountains. Would you ever, still together, drummers in Mexico, whatever Big Day South calls you up, we want you to come play. Can you sub in Toby? Is that against the band rules?
No, not at all.
Acceptable?
Toby has talked.
Like, is Buddy in Mexico coming back to hang you guys, or what's the how does that? Because you see, even with the big bands, right? I mean, somebody
they bring people.
Somebody, whatever passes on, whatever, and one guy changes. So how about for?
I think he's talking about the Foo Fighters.
How about for your kind of?
That was different circumstances.
Yeah.
How about for your kind of band?
Cocaine overdose.
Your kind of band.
We could definitely, and we've. With Toby, we've talked about that before. I don't think that would happen. No, the drummer, he's talked about coming back to Asia next year, and we might try and play some shows at that point, either in Japan or in Korea.
But if somebody asked you today, would you pass on it, or would you say, "Hey, Tobe, get your
I think
sticks
we've
warmed
thought
up"?
about that and gone like, if we were offered a show or something that we really wanted to do, we'd try and find a replacement drummer, be it Toby or whoever, to step in.
Nice.
Traveling around Japan, and where else did you tour?
Taiwan was the other one. Yeah.
Did you ever have when you're on stage? You know, you're getting paid to tour around a different country. Did you ever have the sense of like, I'm making it, like I'm.
No, not really. But I understand what you mean. And Japan's an interesting one because for me, growing up in the UK and playing in the bands that I did, touring Japan or releasing an album in Japan was the ultimate goal. Like that was we've made it. We're big in Japan. Like that kind of thing was what I think a lot of kids, or a lot of my friends, me and my friends, really wanted to do. And some friends of mine actually got to tour Japan back in 2007, I think it was. And it was the first time so I went with them. I went to Japan, and we had a phenomenal time. The shows were amazing. We met some really, really cool people, and we were in Tokyo, and just like, this is the best place, I think.
Can you give us some...
I think I want to live in Japan. Anyway,
I think most people want to live in Japan
Korea,
after going.
you know.
Can you give us a little context before just keep
Sure,
going?
yeah,
how big a venue? I mean, no idea. I can guess, but how big a venues? How many people? How many shows?
Mid-size.
How much of the country?
Well, so what, with my band or with my friend's band?
Either or. Just to give some context to what touring Japan is.
Yeah.
Is this playing in pubs, or is this festivals all summer, or?
Japan music scene works in a slightly different way to the way that Korea does. I think Korea, for the most part, it's a bar that has like some amps and stuff. And then there are some venues, but mostly they're kind of like linked together. Yeah. Whereas Japan takes that live music very seriously. Yeah. Most of the places that you play are honest to God venues with excellent equipment, with a guy whose job is to just run the sound, not serve customers and then set the mix and fuck off for the rest of the set. No, their job is to run the sound. There'll be a stagehand to help you and like make sure you have everything you need. Like it's at a much higher level. Even if the venue size is maybe slightly smaller, everything will be done at a very high standard. So most of the places that I've played in Japan have been maybe 200, 300, 400 capacity venues.
That's a good audience, like, man.
I mean, we're not selling them out. We're not selling out the venues, but
it's a very personal experience, though. Sure. It's, I mean,
and
80,000 people in the football stadium.
Yeah, it's not the same as. I went to see Korea versus Iran soccer at Seoul Stadium. Yeah. Towards the end of COVID, I hadn't been around 60,000 people in my life. Yeah. But also after 2.5 years of being around nobody, to suddenly be around 60,000 people. Wow, a visceral experience.
I just finished 2 books, Bob Dylan Chronicles and Bruce Springsteen Born to Run.
Okay, yeah.
And
very opposite end of the music spectrum from where I am.
Sure. But in regards to starting a very humble musical career, they're both, I mean, we're born into seeing them as absolute superstars, but reading about their early difficulties and bands breaking up and just crazy shit happening, and it's I think maybe every musician goes through that, and the difference between them, I think Bob Dylan is really, I felt that he was just about playing the music. He just wanted to get out and play the music, and he felt just being in New York in the early '60s that he had already made it. Springsteen always had I felt he always had the goal of like, I got to get a record deal, and then after he signs the deal, it's like, okay, now I'm here. Yeah. Now I'm here.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong. New York in the '60s, I think that was definitely the place to be. If you wanted to be around music and play music and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I think some of the greatest musicians or bands that you know, almost no matter the genre, start from somewhere, and it's usually somewhere fairly small. You know, playing your local pub, playing your local club. That kind of thing.
It's incredible to read about. I mean, again, we're born into it. They're mad. They're huge superstars, and you just hear about them sleeping on couches, or I was making $30 a week and couldn't pay my rent, and then it's almost overnight where like it's the slow build. Boom, you sign that record deal, and he talked about hearing himself on the radio. Someone pulled up and he's like, "Oh, that's my tune," and that was his like, "Oh man, I'm here. We did it." Yeah, that's really cool, man.
How much were you guys getting paid in Japan?
Enough to cover a
couple rolls of sushi or
and stuff, you know. Just a little bit of food money for you. No, it's part of the whole hobby thing again. Right. You know, like I say, we put our own money into this kind of thing, And then when we had the chance to go to Japan, the first time especially, we weren't that well known in Japan. So we put a lot of our own money in for the flights and that kind of stuff. Our drummer waited until like a week before to buy his ticket and spent 3 or 4 times more than me and the guitarist did. But that was on him. And then there was actually another band. We went and played in China, and our guitarist missed the flight because he overslept. And had to buy a ticket on the day to get to China. And ridiculous amount of money for that. But then second time we went to Japan, slightly bigger venues, and we got paid for our time. And then free food, free booze.
What an experience! How long of a period of time?
Both tours were fairly short, a week at most.
Yeah.
And we kind of didn't really leave Tokyo that much. Just
you don't need to.
I mean, Tokyo is so huge.
You don't need to.
Every district in Tokyo feels like its own separate village, wild, its own separate thing. So
anything that sticks out or significantly as a memory of
memorable performance,
China,
maybe?
Taiwan, Japan. I mean, man, what a plethora of stories you must have from that kind of experience. I mean, you tell your grandkids or whoever.
Yeah. Did you
toured in Japan?
You smash your guitar and kick the drums over at the end of the last show?
Not quite as rock and roll as that. Actually, I mean, one of my first ever shows back in England. At the end of the show, I did like chuck my bass on the floor and like was rolling around, and I opened my eyes and my dad was standing above me. He thought I was having an asthma attack. He's like, you okay? Oh, fuck off, Dad, I'm trying to be a rock star.
I thought that growing up, when I was young, I remember seeing Nirvana smash their thing, and I thought that was standard. I thought that was like, the show's over, it's time to bust all your equipment.
I think the thing that really turned me off, it was The Who. I forget who's the guitarist in The Who. Not John Ertzwell, he was the bass player, but the other dude, Pete Townsend. He was like very famously like swing the guitar, and he'd trash a guitar at the end of every show, and that was part of their shtick. That just made me think, what a fucking dick, man. Like, that costs a lot of money. Why smashing your guitar to be cool? Right?
Yeah.
Was his whole thing.
Have you seen someone smash all their stuff live?
Maybe more avant-garde performances where the guitar is kind of destroyed anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, but not these days. Not at those prices.
I saw. Do you know Wolf Mother?
I do.
Out of Australia. I saw them on their last. They did a North American tour, probably 2006, 2007, and I caught them on their last performance on the tour, and they crushed their whole everything. It was only a couple hundred people, and they destroyed everything, including my hearing for a week. But it was cool to see.
Yeah,
it was cool to see. And back to the
no Yakuza.
No Yakuza. I think the best show, the first show we ever did in Japan, and again when I'm not going to say we're known now, but at the time we were very unknown.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine put together this show. So because the venues are such high level, they can be expensive to put on. And if we're a nothing band from South Korea going over, we can't do 3 or 4 shows like that.
Right.
So the first show we did was in a practice space, like a very nice practice space. And my friend hired out 2 rooms, one for merch and green room and one for bands playing. And then all the equipment was just in the middle of the room. And there was like 3 Japanese bands that played before us, all absolutely phenomenal bands, just melodic and tight and just phenomenal musicians. And then we went on, and it was just like 30, 40 people stood around us. And it was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had, just like playing in such a small space, but then just being surrounded by all these like new people, cool people that we'd just met,
Who do you put your trust in when you're going to play in China, Taiwan, Japan? If you've never been, there must be a huge leap or risk there involved.
No, not really. There's a touring circuit for that. China came about through a friend of ours that we knew from here who'd gone and played a bunch of times. Japan was, we'd put out a few records, and then small labels, small bands in Japan had contacted us.
Okay.
And so we kind of trusted them when we knew them. Taiwan was the same, like friend of a friend who'd been over. So it's not quite as like
random.
You know, random or seedy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, come, yeah, you can come play my bar. That's fine. I'll put you up on the floor or whatever.
I'm just trying to picture, like, if somebody from Japan wanted to come play JJ's or what you call it, in Bangajin or...
Last night or the night before, I watched a band from Switzerland playing HQ Bar in Busan. Two-piece kind of drum and banjo, but then lots of electronics and all this kind of weird stuff going on. And so, yeah, for them, I imagine it must be weird to just, like, reach out to these random places and go, hey,
sticky fingers. Hey, that sounds interesting. Can we come by?
But yeah, bands do it. Bands come and tour from elsewhere. You know, you kind of just you take a leap of faith. But you know, also we were talking earlier about the whole social media thing. It's not like, you know, you call up a number and somebody says, yeah, come to this address. Like, there's stuff online that you can check out beforehand. You know, this is our gear. This is how many people.
Try and compare it to going to play in Manila or Singapore hockey tournaments. And, you know, the first time, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a team ready with random guys from all over the country that I don't necessarily know all their skill levels. We're signing up for this division. Should we be in over 30? Should we be competitive? Should we be over 40 and bullshit our ages? Like, well, we want to play in Singapore? What the hell? What does the rink look like? What is... And like, same in those places, it's all in malls, right? It's all a big super mall in Bangkok and Manila, and
a huge difference of quality of like the playing area and.
Well, often because they're malls in Southeast Asia, they're very, very humid. So the quality of ice, and they're usually on the 4th, 5th, 6th floor. So it's very, very different than a proper ice rink. And surrounding...
You got to finish by 5, and then it becomes a swimming pool.
And surrounding the rink is all the restaurants and people looking over the rink from 3, 4 floors up.
Throwing French fries in.
But I remember the first time going to Singapore, I think, and we got there, and there was ringers from the Latvian national team. There was Olympic players. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, nobody told us. Wayne Primo, Keith Primo's brother, played in the NHL. And I'm like, okay, he's 5 years out of his prime, but imagine going to play, you know, a beer league soccer tournament for fun in Kuala Lumpur, and I mean, and not Beckham, but pick who you want. I mean,
play
I mean, I think Steven Gerrard or someone. You're like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, we're just for fun. Like, well, I never been to Malaysia. These guys are buddies, buddy. He called, said, you want to come play in Malaysia with us? Sure, let's have some beers.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
and it is cool. But after that experience, then I started doing more research into where we're going, who's going to be there. It turns out all the oil companies in Southeast Asia, especially around Singapore, Thailand, they got lots of connections, and they just say, hey, boys, you know anybody back home? Bring them in for the tournament. We're not losing to these.
It sounds very similar to in The Simpsons when they hire all those ex-baseball pros to come and play.
Shave those sideburns.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Darryl Strawberry. Who even is Darryl Strawberry? I don't know. But yeah, is it like that? They hire ex-pros to come in? Like, what? Well, yeah.
So now I'm skeptical when it says this.
You now work for the Singaporean oil,
you know, or over 40. Well, I have a lot of buddies that play or played pro. So if they said now tournament in Korea, and you know, Hyundai said, Nate, don't screw around here, bring in a couple boys. I could phone up some, hey, everything's paid, booze, girls, hotels, everything. come and see South Korea.
Sure.
Who's going to say no? I mean, and when you're talking Singapore, Bangkok, like, these are places guys wouldn't otherwise go to, right?
Cool places.
So it's it's what I just think though. If you showed up at your first show and you're like, what the hell? How did we get in here? Maybe I watched the wrong videos.
There was a long time ago. I used to promote these shows in Daegu, and then I was helping out a friend of mine who was bringing in international bands, and there was one incident where a band from Texas had come over.
Borat was there?
No, but yeah, they came over and they saw the venue, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" Like that, a tiny amps. And like it was a bar with stuff in the back.
Yeah.
And they almost threatened, like, "Oh, we don't want to play." And I kind of had to talk them down and go, like, "Look, this is not, you know, the States or even Japan where they just come from."
Yeah.
You know? I was like, it's a little bit more, you know, Wild West out here, and you know.
Have you ever had it the other way? They send you the video, you bring it in, and they're like, who the oh, sorry, the guitarist was sick. We brought in our other buddy to play with us.
No.
Whoa. This isn't what you sound like in the video.
What can you talk? You mentioned you do a lot of promotion as well. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your experience with that?
So yeah, back in the UK, I used to just do small shows in my university town. So then when I came to Korea, after that first year in Ulsan, I moved to Daegu, and then just kept doing the promotion and that kind of stuff. The first thing I did was kind of a proto Big Day South, which was on my birthday. I used to put on shows, and my first show in Korea was this big festival that was all for charity.
Yeah.
So there were 3 local charities in Daegu at the time, and I was like, right, well, we'll just put on all these bands. I found a venue that had 2 floors, so we had acoustic acts and rock bands. We just kind of alternated the 2, and we made like a load of money for these 3 charities, which was awesome. Was really cool. And it's kind of like, hey, it's my birthday, please come to my show, but also I'm going to take your money and give it
away.
Somebody else.
Good for you. That's awesome.
And then after that was kind of like I started a band, and so I wanted to put on shows for my band. Nice. And I would take like 1 or 2 local bands, and then I would just like scour the internet for bands from other cities that I thought were kind of cool. And then if I heard something that I really liked, I would contact them and say, hey, do you want to come down to Daegu? You can stay at my house. You'll get most of the door is yours, you know.
Nice.
And you guys can come and have some fun in Daegu. So yeah, I started doing that for a bit. And then Big Day South, which
with Philip?
Philip. So we did that in Daegu the first year, and then Ulsan the second year, and then after that I moved to Seoul to do my master's degree. So I stopped working on Big Day South. But
was Philip there before you, or you were there before him, or
Big Day South?
Yeah.
Oh, we did it together. The first one in Daegu was us two, because I think Philip had Angle magazine,
right,
and he'd come to I can't remember if he'd come to the festival that I put on, but he knew about it, and I guess I started doing shows, and he would come to some of those. Yeah. So we just talked about combining our powers and doing an art and music festival. Yeah. So the first Big Day South, as I say, was in Daegu. There was an art stage with comics and artists, and Shauna Gorman, a friend of this parish. Yes. He did some poetry and that kind of stuff, and then there was a live area as well where we would live bands and all that kind of stuff. There is something online, actually. It's on Vimeo of all places. But Shauna Gorman doing one of his poems over my band, which was instrumental, as I mentioned. Colours, the band. Anyway, so we did a thing together, and then we recorded his poetry later on, properly recorded, and put it together, and it's on Bandcamp somewhere as well. But so that was Big Day South, was like art and music together. Philip was definitely more into the art world at the time, and I was big into music and finding bands. So then the next year we did the Ulsan one as well. And that was phenomenal. Like, we tried to add some movie stuff into that. We played at Royal Anchor, and is it Moim, the old burger place that was in Songsudan, maybe?
Moim.
Yeah. I think it was called Moim Gallery. I might have that wrong. But anyway, it was in the basement there. Performance art, as I say, like acoustic bands, lots of weird stuff, and then at the Royal Anchor we had like live bands.
There's a lot of planning that goes into the festival.
It's really stressful. It kind of consumes your life for a while, but I'm reminded. I always think of Futurama. My references are
listen,
comedy references.
Listen, when you're saying Simpsons or Futurama, I'm not the only one. Right? Yeah, I'll say some shit in class about Simpsons. Like, teacher, what's that? Like, I gotta update my references.
My wife, who's slightly younger than me, I will mention Simpsons things and just goes way over her head. Like,
dude, how many awesome jokes have you said that just?
All of my jokes are awesome, of course.
What is it like when you meet someone like
Hold on, I want to hear about the.
Oh, I was just going to say, like in future, there's a bit where Fry is going to find information, and the guy says like, "Oh, I have this information, but I don't think it's worth your time." And Fry just goes, "That's impossible. My time is worthless." And I just kind of thought of it like that, you know.
Sure.
Like I was working with Epic at the time, and second year,
Yeah.
so I'm teaching my classes, and then you have a couple of hours of desk warming time, and so I just started using that time to like.
Is that term only used in Korea? Was that like invented here?
Maybe.
Desk
I think
warming?
there are still, there are
I've
places
never heard of
where
it
you do
before I
that.
came to Korea, but desk warming is hilarious. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was going and working. It's just
Yeah.
there was a few hours
No,
at
but
the end of the day.
it used to be a common term, desk
Sure,
warming. I hate
yeah.
desk warming. I love desk warming. You get desk warming time, but I don't know if anybody would understand that anywhere else, or if that's just
You have to sit at your desk.
in
Yeah.
Korea.
So yeah, I started using the time to like study Korean and then put on these shows and stuff. So yeah, a festival, it consumes your life, but then it's done and you kind of, you just kind of breathe a sigh of relief and
Sure.
you're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
What is it like when you meet someone like Philip or other people I'm sure you've met, whether it's band guys or promotion guys, and you feel that
Synergy.
vibe,
Yeah.
the synergy, like, wow, dude, you got soul covered. I know everything down here. We can do so much. This will be awesome. What is that feeling? More times than not, does it turn out to be true, or does it just kind of fizzle out, or you can't find the time to collaborate, or?
I think it depends. With some people I've met and we can work together, or like I can help them out, or whatever it might be. And then you kind of have a shared goal of like, we want to do this to support local art or local music or whatever it might be. And yeah, so you kind of work to that aim. And then, it's not like a job. So once it's done, I don't have to see that person for another 6 months or whatever. Like, at least we don't have to work together for, daily. But like I say, the goal is the same, that we want to do stuff. I think when Big Day South happened, and me and Phil were doing all this promotion stuff, there was a little bit of a space in the market for us random no-name foreigners to come into this country and go, hey, I'm going to put on a show. I'm going to make a festival. I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And it was great, and we had a lot of fun. But I think now there is more than enough Koreans doing that stuff.
Right.
That I don't feel the need to.
You guys are
put
the
on
catalyst, maybe?
No,
Because there wasn't even busking back then. I mean,
No,
there wasn't people anywhere. And
No,
now it's-
like we would have to kind of like, and especially if you're an expat band, you go like, I need to do this myself, at least initially. So I'm going to make a show for myself because I want my band to play, and also these amazing bands, I want them to come and play with me as well. But nowadays, like tonight, I'm going to go to Daegu. I'm going to go back to Daegu, a place where I put on shows for 3 years, and it was phenomenal. Now there is a space there called James Record that has shows, it has a label, it puts out compilations, it does lots and lots of excellent
What's
cool
it called?
stuff.
James
Record.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's kind of a bar. You can go and drink there and listen to vinyl. It's great.
Run by a foreigner or Korean?
No, Korean. This is my point. Like, there is...
Guys,
People film
as
the
it
space.
should be, there is not space for me, no-name Johnny Foreigner, to come in
Right.
and say, hey, I'm going to be a part of the scene. I'm going to be the big dog in the scene.
Yeah.
I always hated that. I never wanted to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that now there are actual Korean people doing that stuff. In the
And you can
Korean
shift
scene.
your focus back to making good music.
I can just stay at home and
Right.
twiddle on my guitar. Yeah, exactly. Like I can let them carry on. Not carry on the torch, because like it wasn't me who lit it. But they can deal with stuff
Sure.
that we had to do in the past.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. I think Phil probably doesn't have to do that anymore. And that's kind of good.
For anyone that's put on a festival, like it's a massive undertaking. You can plan all you want, but on the day, shit's going down. Something
stuff
always
goes wrong all the time.
Is there any big ones that stick out in your head from the first two Big Day South?
The first Big Day South, the big one was that in the art stage, I'm sorry, Phil. Phil did not check that the laptop and the projector were able to connect with each other. So on the day we get there and he can't connect his laptop.
That almost happened today. That happened like an hour ago.
Technology, right? You gotta check these things, sure. Right? So there was one comic artist who used to live here, William. I forget his surname. I apologize, but he used to do a comic a day with like really nice drawing and a little kind of quote and stuff. And he was supposed to do a demonstration of his work, like how he makes a piece. And so what he ended up having to do was to sit on a chair with his back to the crowd, hold his iPad up above his head and do the drawing so that everyone sat behind him could see the drawing that he was doing whilst he's talking about it. And there is still a photo online somewhere of him, and you can just see the sweat dripping down his face as he's trying to like do this thing like freehand and like hold the iPad up and stuff. I felt so sorry for him, you know.
That should have been Phil holding the iPad.
It ended fine in the end, like you know. It worked out in the end.
Honestly, it's inevitable, man. There's always something's always going to go wrong, and you know what? You're not getting paid huge money for it, so
not at all. Not at all.
You're dedicating a lot of time.
Neither should we be paid for it. We're not doing anything really. We're just bringing other amazing people to one space, and then saying, "Hey, come and watch all these." Amazing.
It's so nice to hear there's other people doing that too, man. I think that's a really important thing for anywhere, whether it's at home or it's here. That's a really important thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you notice you're part of the underground scene in Ulsan, Daegu, Seoul? Is there anyone that you prefer? Is there like
they all have their own thing? Yeah. Seoul is great, but it can be quite chaotic, and obviously like the market is bigger there. In terms of like there's more venues, but there's also more bands, and there's more demand of audience time and audience money. So yeah, that's definitely the thing. I think Busan has been the nice middle ground. We have 4 decent venues, and any given weekend there might be 1, 2 shows, maybe 3, sometimes nothing, which can be good too.
Is that where you're living now?
That's where I live now. Yeah, actually, I live there, but I work in Seoul. So I'm commuting back and forth.
What are the venues?
So in Busan we have HQ Bar, which is by Gwangan Beach. We have Basement up in the north near Busan National University, and Old 55 in Gyeongseongdae near University. Cool. So these are the 3 like foreigner-owned bars that are, you know, straight up bars, and they'll put on shows. But the biggest venue, I think, is Avant-Garde, or at least the biggest venue for indie music is Avant-Garde. It's owned by 2 Koreans, a couple, and they put on really good shows all of the time. This weekend, Busan Rock Festival, they have an after party at Avant-Garde every night. So like they are really doing amazing work in the same way that James Record at Daegu has taken that indie scene, local venue thing, and now bands from, say, Seoul have a touring circuit of a couple of venues. You know, awesome. James Record in Daegu, Avant-Garde in Busan. There's a place in Gorje called Und, which is also Korean owned, and like bands come and tour those places.
Cool.
And they get paid and they have a great time. You know, most of the time. It's promoted well. It's promoted to Korean people in a way that I couldn't do 10 years ago when I was in Daegu, and my Korean was shoddy at best, you know. So yeah, really good to see them kind of doing their stuff there.
I looked at the list for that Busan Rock. Those are mostly domestic bands, or is there stuff coming over from Japan and China for that? Or
there's definitely Japanese bands there. Last night, yesterday, Friday. Yes, it was Friday. Yeah, Friday seemed to have the biggest lineup, or the most popular lineup. You had a bunch of very big local bands that had gone and played, Korean bands, but the headliner was Kasabian, and Kasabian are a huge indie band from the UK. They're actually from my hometown. Wow. So they were the headliners last night. So yeah,
Were you
have
there?
some big bands. No, I didn't go.
He's preparing for this interview, man.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was on my game.
I'm not into the scene enough. I would see random bands at Sticky Fingers if they came by on one of the 2 nights I would go out in a year. And maybe 10 years ago, I saw a band called Walking After You.
Ah, yes, yeah.
And I was just like, this is crazy. 4 young girls, like maybe early 20s when I saw them, and just rocking out like nobody's business. Original songs, couple covers, whatever. And I remember saying to the guys, you got it. Next, if Shilly says these guys are coming, we all got to go next time. These girls are unreal. You've never seen anything like this in Korea. I don't know what they tell their parents. I don't know where the hell they can practice. This is like aliens landing on the moon for me. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's.
But they weren't in that Busan rock lineup, and I was wondering, are they getting bigger? Are they? I have no idea. Maybe they just didn't want to.
They've been around for a while. Walking After You, their niche is definitely like playing the bars, I think. So they come to Busan occasionally, and they'll play the pubs down there. Royal Anchor here and Stickies occasionally, they've played that too. I think they definitely would like to get bigger, and they're definitely the kind of band that puts a lot of money into promoting themselves, but then they're also like going around and touring a lot. I mean, I can't say why they weren't on the Busan rock lineup.
I just thought if anyone was there, I don't know.
But I think like the idea that I'm sure their parents know where they are.
Oh no!
What they're doing.
I remember like seeing that the first time. You're like, whoa! Yeah. Do you guys just walk around like cool like every other Korean girl regular, and then just turn it on at practice time, or what?
No, but that's the thing, and like I think our experience of Korean people is kind of coloured by our jobs, right? Like we work at a university or whatever, and so we kind of see maybe the same kind of people. My job is at a university in Seoul. But
we've seen lots of bands come through Sticky Fingers. We've been to lots of festival stuff.
I guess my point is like it's not the same. Like that idea that everyone in Korea is a cookie cutter and everyone thinks the same and dresses the same. It maybe was the case at some point, but I don't think
it's
it
changing.
is so much.
But maybe for me compared to Japan, where you saw the underground culture, it was everywhere all the time.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And Korea was like that for a while, and I guess if you were in Hongdae, that wouldn't seem so wild. But being in Ulsan, it was like, whoa, this is wild.
You're absolutely right.
But in Japan, it was just. That's what I love about Japan. It was just so
you could see
cool. It was everywhere.
The counterculture everywhere.
Yeah,
and I think. For a while, I was of the same notion that in Korea there is no counterculture and everyone's the same. No one knows anything. I think it either it wasn't like that and I just didn't see it, or it's changed. And yes, Hongdae, but like everywhere in Seoul now, in Busan.
Right. Yeah, now it's sure.
Busan obviously is a different case because it's more of a conservative, traditional. There isn't a huge scene for art or music or all these things here in Ulsan
yet.
But yeah, exactly yet. Like it will come.
But that too, like when you go to the university festival or whatever, and they have 4 or 5 bands playing, you're like, whoa! Even at Chaodam Center, man, the guys doing the rap, the hip hop, the rock stuff. We were there for the market, there's flea market, whatever, last weekend. The young people do it. It's cool, man. It's wild. It's changing.
At our Christmas party last year, we had as part of getting like the gym rental for free, they promote some of their local or the members of their
community center bands.
There was how old are those kids? 10 to 12.
The rap guys?
Yeah.
No, they're middle school.
Oh, whatever. 13, 14. Yeah. And these kids are rapping in English. Dude. Spark it up. Spark it up, spark it up, put it in the air, spark it up. I'm like, do any of you guys know what spark it up means?
It's weird. When I was at UNIST, I'd have this presentation assignment where I'd ask them to debate a controversial topic. Yeah. And every year, every semester, one group in every class would do the should we legalize marijuana debate. You know, and I was like, oh, okay, so that kind of thing is like be it through the music or through TV or media, like that stuff is known about here. Yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm sure those like middle school kids have not smoked it in their life, but know what it is.
Do you know Seaweed Mustache?
Yes, really
Yeah.
good band from Busan.
Yeah.
Phenomenal band.
Phil turned me on to them.
Mhm.
Awesome. It works. The name's so good in English,
Yes.
and equally good in Korean.
Yeah.
What would Grandma say to Seaweed Mustache?
I think that doesn't pass the grandma test. I'm very sorry. It does
Grammy.
not.
Oh, really?
Could you explain that?
Yeah, you're like, see, a mustache of seaweed? What are you talking about, sunny boy?
Good.
No, they're a phenomenal band, really lovely people. And they got to play a really big festival this summer. I think Pentaport, maybe? One of the big Korean indie music festivals. Really good for them.
I was going to ask
Doing
you,
more and more.
Jisan Valley Rock, does that still go, or is that done, or was that just like a 2-year thing?
I'm not really sure, because there was one year where it was either Ansan Valley or Jisan Valley. I think it's kind of the same company, and they move it around. But they didn't sell enough tickets, and I think they cancelled the festival.
Is that where Coldplay's playing?
No, they're at the
they'll
football
probably
stadium.
come for their own show.
They got Goyang
Coldplay.
up north.
Yeah.
Um,
But I did go to Jisan one year, only once, and I just went for the day. And I was going to see this band from Japan called Toby, who were playing like middle of the day. And then, so the band, like I go and the band comes on, they start playing, and then the heavens open, like absolute torrential rain. And the band ended up playing 3.5 songs, because halfway through the third song, like the equipment was just getting drenched. And so
Soggy toe.
yeah, exactly.
That was
and
a
so yeah, we had to leave. But yeah, that's the only time.
that was a
I've been
festival
to-
that seemed to have at least some funding, because there were some decent bands coming,
Yeah, sure.
and it kind of coincided with, I think, my first or second year here. We were in Japan, and Japan, I forget what it was called, but it was Tokyo and Osaka, and they'd play Thursday, Friday in Osaka, this 50 bands in Seoul or whatever, and then they would change for Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
But it was big bands from home all the way down to some of the stuff you would have seen in the small performing venues. And I thought, why doesn't Korea? I remember one year it was Offspring and Blink 182 and just a whole bunch, some bands that you would see at home. Why wouldn't they just jump over the pond and come and do something like that in Korea? I don't know about Busan and Seoul, but come for a 2-day, 3-day festival. I mean, Jisan Valley Rock seemed like it was kind of catching on to that. But that one in Japan, whatever it's called, Rock and Roll Weekend or whatever, and it was just 4 days of just wildness. It was crazy.
I think unfortunately the financial reality of that kind of thing doesn't
Can't sell
exist in
tickets,
Korea.
enough
Yeah,
tickets,
exactly. So if you look at, like, we've had an absolute boom of festivals in Korea this year, music festivals. Almost every weekend there is a few festivals going on. And unfortunately, the lineups for a lot of these festivals are fairly similar. Like you have
So they're just kind of touring
a certain
around.
number of bands that are always asked to play the festivals. And then the bigger ones, like Busan Rock, might invite a foreign band over, but they're not going to do what Japan does, and they're not going to be able to invite 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 foreign bands to come and play. Because, the money just isn't here in Korea for that. And the festival-going audience is happy to pay a large fee to see these Korean bands that they really like. And maybe one Japanese act, maybe one further afield act. But yeah.
As a promoter, would it? I just wonder why they don't piggyback off Japan. Japan's established, everyone goes there. Wouldn't that be the way to start getting the foreign bands in? You're already in Japan, why don't you jump over for a day, maybe build a following in Korea, or is that just not worth it for them?
The thing that normally happens with that is that if you're a big touring band or a big foreign band, you want to go and play China or Japan on the weekends. So that's where you're going to make the most money.
Right.
So Korea kind of gets the
Wednesday shows.
We get the midweek shows. And that doesn't make enough money. So it's very rare that you can justify hey, you're in Japan, why don't you come to Korea and play on a Wednesday or a Thursday? There are promoters in Korea, Hijinks in Seoul. They have 6 or 7 shows coming up, mid-level touring international acts. Most of the shows are on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, this kind of thing. no local support, just like, come and see that band and go, because unfortunately that's the time, that's the financial reality of.
It's good though. People looking for a midweek shake-up.
It can be nice, but then you got to get off work. You got to go.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy the show maybe fully, because then you got to get home before the last train, and you got to be up for work the next day. It's a tough one.
We just got tickets for Coldplay. My wife and I are going to go in April. They had 4 shows scheduled, and I think it was Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Monday maybe, or Tuesday. And they added 2 more shows. And I went, wow, that's, I don't know if that's looking at them, but just to allow that time in your schedule on a world tour where you can add 2 more shows. I'm assuming they don't just do it here, they do it wherever they are. I think they have 6 shows in Sydney. But they said that they don't want the prices getting to be exorbitant where their fans can't come and see them. And they will add more shows, decrease the value of the show, of the ticket, so that they're not sold in the aftermarket for double, triple, quadruple the price, which I thought was wow. Like, I think Maroon 5 was here a couple of years ago and they played 1 or 2 shows and left, and tickets go as high as you want because there's 1 or 2 shows. They're so scarce. So my question, one, why doesn't anybody come to Busan? It's one of my biggest
touring bands.
Yeah. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in Korea.
People do come to Busan.
but hold on, in Winnipeg, 700,000 people, all the biggest bands.
Sure.
Frickin' Regina, Saskatoon, 10,000, 15,000. You could sell out Munsu Stadium here with any of these bands that are going to Seoul. Is it just, hey, it's an hour away, fly to Seoul? Is that just a big, who wouldn't come to Busan? They all play Osaka, they play Tokyo.
I think if it's a big band, then again, the money is in playing in Japan or China. So you're going to come to Korea. If you come to Korea, you go to Seoul. That's the thing, Busan, I think for us feels like a big city.
It's 5 million people, Christ.
Yeah, but I think even for some Korean people, it feels like the countryside.
Sure.
So I think it's just a bad idea.
Okay, how about Korean bands?
Korean bands come to Busan all the time.
The big K-pop bands.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm just wondering if you can put the logic together for me. I don't understand why BTS wouldn't come. I don't care about BTS. I like what they do with their platform.
They did.
They don't go to Busan.
They played the big stadium for the thing.
Don't know what they did exactly.
Busan World Expo, to promote Busan World Expo.
The one. Yeah, they did.
But 10 years before that, they hadn't been. It's what, 45 minutes on your private jet.
Well, why go down when they can just sell out everything in Seoul?
Because what about all the young people who can't go up on a Wednesday or a Thursday? Their mom and dads have to go. They can't afford to go.
There's 12 million people to support them over there. They don't give a shit. They're getting.
So is that it? We don't give a shit. Their whole message is we do give a shit. This is my whole thing. Their whole message is we do give a shit.
Come see us.
But I mean, even as a group touring, they're from Korea. They're an hour away. The army, the Korean people is what made them. It's not just people in Seoul. People all over the country die to go and see these guys.
Sure.
And just think of the logistics of going on a weeknight. Say you got to get up there. Mom or dad has to come with you. If you're under probably 17.
They've been doing it for a decade.
Who? But I think there's a lot of people that haven't been able to see them that would really like to.
Of course.
There's a lot of diehard fans that. But is it that hard to get you to come to Busan to play a Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
I think it's just, we got to be careful not to conflate BTS with some local indie band. Completely different. They're not looking for to expand their markets. They don't need to expand their markets.
But even for as long as we've all lived here, there's not major K-pop shows that come to Busan.
We used to have a huge one over here in Munsu every year. Where was that all the top ones?
Summerfest. It was never all the top ones. It was the second tier ones. But same, they would sell it out. You could put BTS here on a Wednesday, they'll sell it out.
Sure.
What a treat for people in Daegu, Pohang, Ulsan, that they would actually come and show up. But to me, it's just the whole K-pop is we only Gyeonggi-do, see you later, come spend all your savings and come see us.
I think that's many things in Korean culture is Seoul is the place to be for it, and everywhere else everywhere else is the countryside.
Speaking of Coldplay, do you in your band Colors?
I'm listening to this segue.
In your band Colors,
Yes.
you don't have a song called Yellow, do you?
I think maybe we did. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Coldplay's gonna come and shut you guys down.
I always say this with Coldplay because I know they are like. I think they're a band that a lot of people like to shit on because Chris Martin is who he is, and
They're the Nickelback of.
maybe a little bit.
Not quite a Nickelback.
But I am of a vintage where I remember the first Coldplay EP and the first album, which had Yellow on it. Phenomenal, both of them. Like really, really nice listens.
What happened?
Especially headphone wise, like you listen, there's all this kind of like depth under the music, all these layers, really subtle and I don't know. I mean, as you know, any musician who has to do the same thing again and again, they probably just started going like, let's make more pop songs, let's make more, you know, whatever, what do you call it, radio friendly shifter units.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. But no, I will recommend, listen to the first album and EP by Coldplay. It's really, really nice.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how pumped are you that Oasis is back?
I can give a shit. I think there's a thing in culture where somebody can be the biggest asshole, just an absolute wrong-un, and people will still go like, yeah, I'll go see those shows. Like, we all know that Kanye West is a horrible person. Yeah, you know, he came and did the listening party in Seoul a couple of weeks ago, right? And the hundreds of thousands of people went to see him play his album and rap over it. I don't know, like, but and that's fine. Like, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. It's the fact that he is a miserable, horrible person, and Oasis is the same. Their music is offensively boring, but some people like it. That's fine. The thing that annoys me is they're absolute dickheads, and that doesn't seem to be a barrier for people to
People
go.
love it.
Do you know Oasis songs are the #1 played noraebang songs in Korea?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I just
I mean, I grew up in England.
don't know.
I could sing Wonderwall for you.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
every word. Do I want to? No. But I've just heard it so many fucking times. No, good for them. They've obviously got some bills to pay and stuff. I think what's interesting with Coldplay actually is, like you were saying, with the ticket prices, Coldplay are being very careful not to have the tickets inflated too much. People have to pay lots of money.
Oasis.
No,
too.
Coldplay are. Oasis, on the other hand, are taking part in what is called dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
So the
Friday night's
idea-
expensive, Tuesday
the
night
idea is
cheaper.
that, like, you are advertised a ticket at a certain price, and like, it's not just a music thing, sport tickets, whatever.
Yep.
You advertise a certain price, so you get in the queue and you wait, and you finally get to the thing that, okay, you can buy your ticket, but it's like twice the price. So dynamic pricing is basically like market forces at play.
It depends on the
Like,
supply and demand of.
Exactly,
I
right.
thought they were doing. I thought Oasis was doing. You buy your ticket for whatever $50, and you can only buy it from Ticketmaster or whatever. You can buy it, but if you want to resell it, you can only resell at that price. If you officially list it for more than the actual price, it's canceled.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I haven't heard
That'd be
about
a cool way
that.
to
But
do
I
it.
think it's like, obviously it is not Noel and Liam Gallagher per se, but whoever's working with them, their company, Ticketmaster has said, like, do you want us to just charge this price, or do you want us to kind of see if we can get you some more money? And these people who are getting paid 20 million to reform and go through their all hits, scrape them, like, scrape our fans dry. Like, we want every last dollar and every last cent that we can get from these fuckers. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't get angry about many things, but Oasis,
That was a button.
I am triggered by Oasis, it seems. So they're going like, look, you will be told this is the price, and once you get to the front of the queue, if the market demand is a certain thing, the price goes up.
Yeah.
Whereas Coldplay, for some of their tickets, have even gone down to £20, which is like 30,000,
Yeah.
right? A limited number, right? But they're about to play Wembley 10 times in a row, which breaks the record of Taylor Swift and Take That, who did it before.
Wow.
Coldplay are massive, but they're being very careful not to gouge their fans
Yeah.
out. And same in Korea. They're going to come here and do all those shows. And
I just think I don't know if there's a responsibility or an onus once you're that big, famous, whatever. Like that's why the BTS thing bugs me so much. Just knowing that every person and every
Nate can't go to Seoul on a Wednesday. He's a little choked.
Is that what you're worried about?
No, but to know how big they are around the world, and they don't even take care of their guys at home.
May I ask, do you guys have kids?
Yeah.
Are they BTS fans?
Eight
Are they?
and 10.
No, they listen. They listen to
They hear
listen
the
to rock from the 60s and 70s. Sometimes we throw in some 50s and a little 90s, but nothing after 2000.
This is what the provincial dad wants to listen to. This
Yes.
is what you're getting.
They say in
but
breakfast music.
I used to always wonder, like, how do they all know all these dance moves? How do they all? Mia must be getting into it. How do they all know all this stuff? My girls don't watch it on TV. They don't watch Melon Countdown or any of these things.
Sure.
They don't have phones. They come home with this freaking Ollie, and I'm like, where did you learn all this shit?
I mean,
like, are you studying or you just do this thing all day? Like, no, at the break time.
I have two younger sisters, and they were doing that stuff when we were young. And again, I'm of a certain vintage. There was not internet when I was a kid either. So yeah, this thing is.
But so
like,
I mean, yeah, they've heard Butter and My Universe and whatever,
Sure.
but now lots of them are in movies and in commercials, and so you kind of see it all over now. But no, they don't follow or know a lot other than 2 or 3 songs that they've heard a gazillion times.
Sure.
But they know all these dance moves to all these other New Jeans and Y Jeans and whatever else is out there. I got no idea. But
I brainwash the shit out of my kids. There's no, I don't hide that either. They know.
Good luck
they
with
know all
that. I think as you get to a certain age, and then they're like, "Nah, fuck you, Dad. I'm gonna do my own thing."
Well, they do what they like, but they're gonna.
They will, with a British accent, say "fuck you." Dad.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that come from? No, I think it's like
Been listening to Oasis.
we were talking earlier about the sports players, football players, NFL, whatever. They make a lot of their money from things outside of sports, and for we can't think of BTS like a band because they're not. They are this pop
Product.
entity products,
Yeah.
right? They don't make their money from playing live in front of people. Maybe a show in Seoul, maybe they go play in Europe, whatever. The money is made from advertising and
McDonald's
that one
fucking
day
sets.
that they come to Busan and play a show and go home. They could record 50, 60 adverts for 50, 60, but they could record 5 adverts for 5 different products, get paid way, way, way more than that.
that's what I was saying. Isn't there something that weighs on your conscience when you're
Again, they're not.
They're wiping their tears with fucking old.
I know.
Oh, this poor guy's in Busan.
I don't mean to be a BTS defender after ripping into Oasis, but if I had to choose,
Anyways, I like what
if I had one bullet.
I like what Coldplay did. They added shows. I think it shows that maybe they care a little bit.
Because Coldplay are a band that came from, their first EP was on an indie label in the UK, and they played shows and they built up. They are a band that started from scratch, the way that Bruce Springsteen would have done back in the day, and Bob Dylan too, I assume.
Dude, 2 awesome books. It's so crazy to see. Oh man, I'm not done Springsteen yet. He just signed his big record deal, and then he just kicked his drummer out of the band. Oh, it's wild. I'm not even a huge Springsteen. I'm not a huge Springsteen fan, but
it's a little too American for my taste.
It's
his story is phenomenal. Yeah,
it's really just the shit he had to deal with as he's climbing. So far, I'm sure there's more coming. But hold on, let's do a hard left here. You're more than just a sweet guitarist. Yeah,
not even.
Yeah, you're also into photography, correct?
Yeah.
We talked to Lee Kelly a couple of years. That's probably 3 years ago now.
Oh, yeah.
But I loved his genesis story, or what introduced him to taking pictures. It was at a wedding, and someone gave him, I think it was just a disposable camera, and he walked around shooting, and he found his passion in life with photography. What drew you to the medium?
I wanted to meet the cool girls.
Yeah.
So in England, the education system, and before university you have college, sixth form college, a separate thing. You do 3 subjects rather than 1, and that leads you to taking A-level exams, and then you go to university. Okay. Anyway, so I'm in sixth form college, and I'm studying business, computing, and accounting. And to this day, I couldn't tell you why. I think I was just, I think my Asian dad. So I think he was kind of just like, yes, you can do anything you want as long as you're a massive success. No, he's not like that. But, so yeah, I was doing that, and then after the first year, I decided to quit accounting, I think it was. And there was the art department in our university. And, you know, I'm 15, 16, I'm of the age, I want to meet girls. All of the cool girls were in the art department. And I was like, how can I get into that with no artistic ability whatsoever? Like, I can't draw, I can't sculpt, I can't do anything like that. Okay, photography. So I borrowed my dad's old film camera and signed up for the photography course. And then, fell in love with the dark room, with the whole medium, the whole gratification of shooting a roll of film, and then it takes ages before you see the final products.
Do you think that's lost these days?
I think it's coming back, actually. So film photography, the film rolls and the chemistry and all this kind of stuff has increased in price a number of times in the last few years. Mostly, I guess, you know, the cost of making these things, but also the popularity of it too, especially in Korea. You know, there was
photography here.
There are a lot of film studios, a lot of places you can buy film. The other day I was walking through Gwangan in Busan, and there was a vending machine that disposed film, Log in Seoul. They have vending machines all around the country where you can buy film. It's like 2 or 3 times the price of what I used to spend on it, but it's definitely become a popular thing. Disposable cameras especially are quite popular here in Korea.
I saw Philip Brett too. He has this film channel. I can't remember what it is. He makes. Have you seen his kind of documentary film YouTube channel? It's pretty cool. But he did one episode on a camera store in Daegu. Really cool. Really, really cool. And just to see that those things exist and the guy's still kind of sticking it out, saying, I believe in it, and if you like it, come on. Yeah,
I think as well, like, you know, my theory was that it comes from... so with music, once MP3s and iPods and stuff became popular, there was an inverse where vinyl started to become more popular too. So like the very digital thing, and then people were like, that's nice, but also I really like vinyl. Like, I want to go back to a more old school or retro kind of thing.
So when do you think the cassettes are coming back?
Never. Cassettes are back.
They are?
I've released 2 cassettes over the last few years. Yeah, the cassettes are...
How do you play
thing.
Rewind it with the pencil and get the high dubbing, ghetto blast.
I have a friend that has a cassette player that has Bluetooth on it, so you can like stream music onto it, record music via Bluetooth, play cassettes. Yeah, so cassettes, vinyl in music comes back. Film is the same thing. We had Instagram and all these like filters, right? Yeah. And these filters were basically aping different film they used to be able to buy. Like one was very high contrast or more faded thing, different ISOs, different kind of chemistry going on. And I think once that started to become popular, younger kids or whoever started going back like, okay, let me start using film because it feels a bit more authentic or it feels a bit more cool. So now you'll see Korean kids and they'll have their phone for the digital photos, but then they'll also have like a film camera around the neck, and you know these things look really beautiful. Like as a fashion accessory.
I hope my students don't go back to the 3-ring binder.
I don't think with that. With school supplies, that was definitely a step to the right.
We've talked about it. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just like, you know, I'm a huge digital advocate in most realms. Like, you know, all my music is digital, my movies and all of these things, but film is the one like tangential, I can hold it in my hand thing that I still keep a hold of, you know. It's kind of, you know, life moves fast and we're surrounded by all these things that happen to us, but photography allows us to kind of stop a little bit, look around ourselves, capture a moment, keep a memory, whatever that might be. You know, I hate the idea that people always say like, oh, you know, living life through a lens, like put the camera away, you're not paying attention to what's around you. I've always thought the opposite, like taking photos makes me focus more. Like, even walking up here today, walking up the road, I'm kind of looking around, looking for cool color, composition, something.
But that saying's not for you. It's for the guy who walks around like this, running into poles and
sure, yeah, there are those guys too. You know,
No, but I
the guys at the concerts who don't put it away.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, I don't agree that like taking photos, whatever the medium, pulls you back or detracts you from the world. I think for me, it makes me more invested in it.
Sure.
You know?
That's a good.
Even if it's like taking a picture
I fully
of food.
agree with it, but I think that came about from frickin' everybody walking around like this. The smombies, isn't that what it's?
Smombies.
Isn't that what it's meant to
What's
relate
a
to?
smommy?
A smartphone zombie.
You don't see the guys you almost hit 5 times a day on the crosswalk.
Oh yes, yes.
I do. There's a lot of things in my life, not musically or photography, but I like the making bread. For example, I couldn't imagine going to the bakery and buying a loaf of bread. I want to make it. I want it to ferment overnight. You know, punch it down before class, let it rise again, come home and bake it. There's something.
There's a joy in making something
Absolutely.
yourself, or just kind of doing something that's a little bit slower in process. And whether, you know, I'm sure your bread is delicious, but it doesn't matter. Like, you're making it,
Yeah.
so it's going to be better for you, like, no matter what.
100%.
Is it always like that? Because when we make pizza, I'm like, this pizza's great. But I don't think other people, I don't know if others would say it's great, but
No.
it is when you, like, I did it and I put what I want on it and how much of it I want on it, and
I just tell my kids this is the best bread you're eating while they're listening to my tunes, you know, and they're that's all.
And I'm
that
sure
matters.
they will remember that. I mean,
don't
you know,
ever
like,
step a foot in putty baguette.
My, you know,
That's it. You're grounded.
I love my mum's cooking.
Yeah.
It's not the best cooking in the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the greatest, but there is something that there's a taste that I've had all my life, and if I was to have it tomorrow, I'd be like, this is the best meal I've ever had in my life. You know.
Absolutely.
So your kids with that bread, like, yeah, they're gonna go, okay, like, yeah, this is Dad's bread.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. But no, yeah, dude, there's. Oh, hold on. Let's go on. We got.
Hold on, you said movies.
Well, that's. Are we gonna get into your OnlyFans or? I thought we were gonna save that for the Friday.
Actually, it's singular.
OnlyFans.
What is the? Can you talk a little bit about your movies?
Oh no, I just meant in terms of like, you know, I don't own a DVD. I don't own DVDs anymore. Like, everything is digitized, and I think that's a good thing, right?
Okay.
You know, like, we don't the amount of plastic waste that went into CDs and DVDs and stuff, like that was a lot, and so it's good that we're done with that.
I didn't know if you were into some mini docs or something.
No. Okay. But yeah, like books and film photography, I think, are two mediums where I'm still very analog. Yeah.
Cool.
Feel free to browse here.
I've been
There's
browsing.
another one outside.
I've had my eye on your books there. I see a Stephen Fry one up there, Ian Banks.
Dude, you
Yeah,
can, there's
some good
another
picks.
thing out there. Feel free to take them.
Sure.
Having lived in various cities, you said you left home at 18 for university. Having lived in various cities and immersed yourself in different communities, how has your understanding of home or belonging shifted over the years? Do you feel rooted in Korea, or is there always a sense of always being in transition?
I think for me, home has always been a tricky question anyway, before I came to Korea. Like, as I mentioned, my parents are both from Iran. I was born in England, but very much that experience of, you know, second generation immigrant child, where I'm not English enough to be English, I'm not Iranian enough to be Iranian. And then coming to Korea is like another level on top of that. I do consider Korea to be my home for now. I've been here 14 years. I love it here. Even after 14 years, I think it's a phenomenal place to live. Yeah, so much to love about being here. But, you know, I know that I'm not going to be here forever. And one day I'm going to have to go probably back to England at some point. So yeah, you know, home is kind of an interesting thing, right? Like, what makes a place your home, that makes you feel like you belong there. And there are so many different things that you need for that. And I could just say, like, look, I have a nice job. I have a lovely, beautiful wife who, you know, very happy with. And I have good friends in multiple cities, you know, because I've lived in so many cities in Korea. I have a small 1 or 2, 3, 4 people in every city that I consider good friends.
Nice.
So, yeah, home is here.
Yeah, awesome. Very nice, very nice. And Nate, looking forward?
Yeah, I mean, could just maybe piggybacking off of that. You're happy here. What do you see looking forward? Is music always just a hobby, or would you consider? I mean,
downing tools.
Not teaching at a hagwon or something, but I mean, how does it look? We got kids. We're pretty rooted here.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been here. Well, like you said,
17 and 20.
Yeah. Do you ever think of like you're going to go back to reality? I really.
No, this is my reality.
Yeah, this is reality, right?
And it's
but I could be anywhere, anytime. I'm not opposed to moving next year to the Middle East or Europe or home or whatever. Home. Yeah,
I like
home,
the idea of living here and kind of whether we see what's the old adage, like you plant a seed to grow the tree that you'll never get shade from, and I think that's kind of what I like.
I always kind of think of, like, again, my parents, they left Iran before the revolution, but then, you know, the revolution happened, so they stayed in England, and what they wanted was a better life, but mainly a better life for me and my sisters. So they're living in England, and
so you left to Korea.
Now they have, like, a community where they have friends and they have people there, and I think they're fairly happy there. But they did have to leave family and all this kind of stuff behind and plant that seed. And I feel like myself and perhaps you guys, we're kind of doing the same, right? We don't think of ourselves as immigrants searching for a better life, but maybe that's kind of what we are, right? Like, Korea is a better standard of living than most countries, especially, okay, I don't know about Canada, but for England, I think comparatively, Korea is a better standard of living, better healthcare, we get paid more for less work, and we're given a lot of freedoms that we wouldn't have back home.
I just think in general it's a good healthy balance. I was in Africa for a while before Asia, and I really I really like.
Feel touched.
I really enjoyed my time there, and I wanted to stay, but there was a lot of maybe logistics that just didn't work. It wasn't really feasible at that time. And now with the internet and the evolution of technology and whatever else, it's a lot more feasible. But at that point, it probably wasn't. And I ended up here, and this is kind of a happy medium where you have most of the amenities of the West, you have opportunity, but it's still exotic and new. And I still think it's, after 20 years, it's still not a boring day. I'm still excited about being here, and it's fun and interesting. And I look at home kind of as maybe more routine or boring or nothing changed. Like when you go home to visit, and I'm still happy to be here. I'm excited to be here, and it's I find it's kind of like a peaceful balance to kind of do everything you want to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And if that changed next week, I mean, sure, I have no problem moving or changing scenery, environments.
At least we have, you have the option of heading somewhere else if you need to. I'm going to assume that your wives are Korean.
Yeah.
Okay, so my wife is English, so we don't have that kind of solid anchor here of family and all these kind of things. And next year we're going to have our first child.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
So we are...
Speaking of planting seeds.
Currently, well, hey now. We are very deeply thinking about these questions right now. Like,
have you signed up for Montessori already?
No idea.
You have the insurance already?
This is what I am waiting for, though, is dads coming to me, now you're a dad, let me give you all this advice. I'm sure that's good. And I will pick your brains about it afterwards. Yeah. No, but we are thinking, like, do we want to send our kid to, preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, right? Like, they would be such an outcast, English and Iranian kid.
My one of my daughter's really good friends is full Iranian, and she goes to Korean school, and they got a special tutor just for her.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
adapting well.
I'm of the mind that it would be okay, but I also kind of understand that it might not be the best place, and if that's the case, then absolutely we go home. Like the next day, pack up, we go. And if I have to go and work at some public school in the UK and, work my arse off and all this kind of, I will happily do that, hands down. If that's the best for the child.
There's so many. We're going to open up a whole new can of worms here.
Being home two or three times the last 2 years.
I was home last year and the year before. Like we went back and got married in the UK last year. And I think before that, when we first met, we met in Ulsan actually.
Nice.
We said to us, we will go back to the UK at some point. And then the last 2 times going home, I was like, oh my God, no. Was it always like this, or has it gotten worse? Are people more selfish? Is it filthier? What are all these silver cans on the floor everywhere? Like the gas things. I'd never seen them before. Anyway, there's so much that seems worse about England.
Something I kind of like about here is that kids don't fit in, and that might it could go one way or the other, and I think it depends on.
It doesn't matter where you are, you're going to get it. We got it for being redhead, braces, glasses, fat, hairy. You get it for being everything. So it's just one way or another. Same shit, different pile.
Yeah.
I think my kids get a little bit thicker skin here.
I like the resilience building, and ideally that's what's happening. They're not just getting beaten to a pulp, but.
I'm glad they have a little bit of hardship, a little bit of discrimination.
I think you're right, and I think though that there is potential for bullying and discrimination everywhere, but it would be slightly less in the UK than potentially it would be in Korea. Again, I'm not sure about that, but that's kind of where we're thinking at the moment.
I think what it comes down to though is it's the education at home. Where
that is a big thing.
And the health, the diet, the health of the child.
But that's the thing. Like Korea health care is phenomenal, and I'm sure you guys experience this as well. But
kids still eat vegetables here.
We haven't paid that much for doctor's visits,
$3,
scans, all these kind of things. I should say that we are both tax-paying workers here, so it's not like we're freeloading or anything. But we are we got a bursary from the government. They gave us a card to pay for doctor's visits and all this kind of stuff. In terms of healthcare here is miles better than in the UK. We wouldn't have to wait for anything. But then on the flip side, you have things like the education system. Where you go do I want my kid to be taught in the Korean style of education that they have at the elementary schools?
Elementary's awesome. It's middle school, high school that we got to worry about.
We can get into that later, but there's not many kids in grade 1 flying drones at home and doing all the after-school programs that are $20 a month.
Sure,
they could just get exposure to so much. Once they hit middle school, it takes a hard right, but
But I mean, we'll see. Long term, music, I'm always going to do. I always joke that I'm just going to die on the stage playing to 5 people. But obviously bigger things are at play now, and that's going to have to come into thought. So
awesome.
It's going to be very sad if I have to leave Korea. I know that it will be, but if it's for the betterment of my family, then in a heartbeat, I won't think about it.
Sure. Dad instincts kicking in already.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome.
There'll be some new songs coming out too.
I can officially be playing Dad rock.
Anyways, Ali, let's cap it here, dude. Thank you for coming all the way from Busan. I love the stories. so far so good on the music front. You got a family in the works. Awesome. Really nice to hear, man.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for coming.
No, I had a great time. Thanks
Wait
for
till
inviting
we
me.
have lunch. Wait till we have lunch. All right. Anyways, everyone, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye bye.